session there you go. Now we're recording. This session and last month's session on images will be in the Arizona Memory Project. We do have a collection of these sessions and the ones that are coming up in the next months. So we'll drop a link to that in the chat so you can go back to these sessions if you want and revisit some of the things that we talk about in these sessions. So I'm very excited to see so many people here that are interested in the government documents that we have on the Arizona Memory Project. Government documents are a little bit of a sweet spot for me on this platform. So I'm excited that there are so many of you that are interested like I am. So we're going to get started here on the main page for the Memory Project. And you might hear me refer to the Arizona Memory Project as AMP. That's kind of our nickname for the site. So if you hear me call it AMP, that's what we're talking about. I would recommend that if you're using the website frequently, that you do log in. If you haven't signed up for a login, we do recommend that you do that if you're going to use it on a regular basis. And mostly that's so that you can bookmark items that you're going to come back to on a regular basis. And once we get into some of the items, I'll show you exactly how to do that and what it looks like. So if you haven't signed up for an account, it's super easy. You'll just go into the login, you'll give us your name and an email address, which we keep to ourselves. And then you'll get a computer generated password emailed to you. And then you can come back in, log in, make your own password. And then you have an account that you can come back and bookmark pages to. So from the main page, there's a couple ways that you can find the government documents that we have on the Arizona Memory Project. The first thing you could do is just start typing a search term in the search box here, or there's a more advanced search box in the upper left corner. So if you're looking for an annual report from the Secretary of State's office, you could just type that here and hit search and get a list of results. But I'm going to show you another way that you could do that and get to those same reports as well. So we're going to scroll down a little bit and I'm going to point out two buttons to you, and then we're going to come back to those. So on this page, we have a bunch of buttons for some of our most popular collections. And right smack in the middle, you're going to see the state government publications. So all of the publications that we have digitized from the state are going to be here in this collection. And then we also have quite a few federal documents as well. We are a federal depository library, which means that we collect documents from the federal government as well. The documents that are in this collection are specific to Arizona. So we don't generally digitize things unless they're related to Arizona. So we'll check back in on this collection in just a moment. So if you're just curious about the government documents and you're not really sure where to start, I'm going to direct you to the bottom of the page. And at the bottom, you'll see this need help getting started headline. And if you click on the more button, you're going to come to this page that has a list of some sort of like personas that you might find yourself fitting into. And if government documents are where your interests lie, I would jump to the state employees persona page. And that's going to give you a very general idea of where to start looking. So this is where our state government documents are. You could find, you could jump right to some of the collections that we have there. There's some links to some of the government documents. Our law materials tend to overlap with a lot of our state government publications. So you can find some of those law materials here. And then some of the other materials that we have as well that might overlap some of those government documents, we've also linked here as well. So if you're just kind of overwhelmed, not sure where to get started with all of those government documents, this might be a great place to get started. So we're going to return to the home page. And first, we're going to check out those federal documents real quick. And like I mentioned, this isn't our biggest collection. We do focus on the Arizona related federal documents. So if it's something that the federal government has published that has ties to Arizona, then we might have it on the Arizona Memory Project. I will also point out that we have not digitized every single document that we have in our collection. If we go back real quick to the home page, I'll just point one more thing out. If you're not finding what you want on the Arizona Memory Project, our online catalog button is down here at the bottom. So this will take you to our online catalog where you can search for an item. And if it's not on AMP, then you can find it maybe on our shelf and then come visit us in the reading room to take a look at that physical item. So just so you know, you can get right to our online catalog from here. So in that federal documents collection, you will see that we have buttons for several of the federal agencies like the Department of Agriculture, the Department of State, the Department of the Interior. So these buttons will take you to all of the documents that we have digitized related to that federal agency. The big one I would say is probably the Department of the Interior, because we have so many national parks here in Arizona, and probably the Department of Transportation would be another big one, and the Department of Agriculture. Then we also, if you scroll down, have 7 different collections of federal documents. Now these do overlap, but if you're looking more for a topical set of federal documents, this might be where you want to focus. So you can see we have federal documents that are related to mines and minerals, to the national parks, to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, etc. So instead of looking by agency, you could look by topic. And then we just have a couple loose documents down here at the bottom that don't necessarily fit into one of the collections or one of the agencies that we have here at the bottom. You know, amendments to the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, things like that, that you might find at the bottom of the federal documents page. So this is just a good place to get started exploring the federal documents that we have. If you don't find what you're looking for, you can always contact us through this email button here. There's also a button in the upper right-hand corner. Just shoot us an email, ask us about what you're looking for. We can try and find it and see if we have it. If it's something that we are permitted to digitize, we can certainly do that and get it on the Arizona Memory Project if we can. So those are our federal documents. We're going to go back to that homepage and go to my absolute favorite, which is our state government documents. So for our state government publications, I will tell you that there is probably a little over 40,000 individual state government publications on the Arizona Memory Project. And those all come from documents that we have on our shelves in the Polly Rosenbaum History and Archives building near the state capitol. So these are all documents that we have either digitized ourselves or that nowadays we get in digital format. So to keep those organized, what we've done is created agency pages for every agency that exists now or has existed in the past. So for example, the Arizona Agricultural Employment Relations Board doesn't really exist anymore. It's been absorbed by the Department of Agriculture, but it did. And so there are documents from that agency. So if you're doing research about an agency, it might be best to start with the agency page itself and sort of sift through the documents that are on that agency page. These are all in alphabetical order. There are hundreds and hundreds of state agencies. So you can see we kind of stop here at the Board of Medical Examiners. If you click on this button here, we'll continue on in an alphabetical order, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. We also have a couple other collections besides the agency pages that we've kind of tagged to the state documents publications. These are also law collections that do overlap with the state documents. So for example, the Arizona Administrative Registers are put out by the Secretary of State's office. They are kind of keep track of the rules that have changed through the legislative processes. The Arizona Attorney General opinions obviously are law-related opinions that come from the Attorney General, who is a state agency, and the Arizona executive orders come from the governor's office, but are also sort of handed down in a I don't want to say in a law manner, but are I am not good at law speak. Anyway, they are a collection of things that overlap the state documents. So we kind of put those here as another way to be found outside of the law collection. And then again, we have some random documents at the bottom that don't fit necessarily into one particular agency, or since this particular document here at the bottom is about the state documents collection, we left it here to be found easily. So if we're looking for an agency that's beyond the Board of Medical Examiners in an alphabetical way, we're going to click this arrow here. And now you can see that the appearance of the agencies is a little bit different than it was before. And now we could do a little bit of sifting. If we know what the agency starts with, then we could jump ahead alphabetically. I will say this doesn't work very well for our state agencies, since a lot of our state agencies start with the word Arizona. If you are looking for the University of Arizona, then we could, jump to the letter U and get to that agency pretty quickly. So we do have that option. So we can see here all of the agencies. There might be a few newer agencies or really old agencies that we don't have anything digitized for just yet. As we come across those, we do create new agency pages. So that is one way that you can look through the state government documents, is by the agency itself. And then I did open up ahead of time one of our biggest agency pages, which is the Arizona Game and Fish Department. I just wanted to take you on a tour of what an agency page kind of looks like. So on some of the agency pages, you will see this collection search box at the top. Just be aware that that is it's a custom search box meant to only search the items that are within the Game and Fish agency page. And that is a work in progress. It's a custom set of code that has to be created, and it's in process. So if you use that search box on some of the agency pages, you might notice some wonky results. Definitely hit that email button and let us know if you're getting some weird results, because we can try and fix that. And you might notice that there are some agencies that don't even have that search box yet. We're still working on that. So that's a work in progress. So you can use that search box and look for things that are inside the Game and Fish Department. That's great for these gigantic agencies that have thousands and thousands of documents. If there are sub-agencies, then we do list those here. If we know the date that the agency was established, we include that. Or if the agency was abolished at some point, that is also information that's included. If there was a preceding agency, we include that with a link. So if we were to click this link, we will also get to that agency's page. If there was a succeeding agency, so if Game and Fish Department was abolished and it became known as something else, that would be listed. If there is any authorization by the legislature, we include that information. Any other names that it's been known as, we include that. The collection that it's attached to, which is the state government publications, And then any websites that are useful for a researcher. So the Game and Fish agency website, and then also this agency history page. And I'm just going to take you guys to that page really quick in case you are doing research on an agency. So we actually have a contractor that works with us on an annual basis, and she works with our law librarian. And she looks at the legislature and what they've done every single year with regards to agencies throughout Arizona. And she updates these agency pages with any changes that are made within the session laws. And so we go through and update these history pages every year. So usually around August or so, I start getting a bunch of these to update. So you can see what laws were changed, what chapter was changed, etc., and any related links that will take you back to the memory project to kind of be a source for some of those changes. So if you're doing agency history, these are great pages to have access to. So that's kind of what the agency page information looks like. And then as you scroll down, you'll start to see kind of the items that are tagged to those agency pages. So first on the Game and Fish page, you'll see we have a bunch of documents. And documents are going to show up in PDF format. All of our documents, all of our periodicals, all of our newspapers are all OCR'd, which means optical character recognition. So everything is text searchable. So when you do a search in either this search box or this search box that searches the entirety of the Arizona Memory Project, it's not only searching the title of the item or the author or the call number, it is searching the entire text of the document. So just so you're aware of that. So we have all of these documents here. They are in alphabetical order, which is why we see them start with the number first. If there are more than, I believe, off the top of my head, I think this number is 24. It displays 24 documents, I think, off the top of my head, before it jumps to another page. Then you would have to use this arrow button to go over, just like we did with those agency pages. If we keep scrolling down, you can see that we also have a bunch of maps that are also tied to the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Again, there are more than 24, so you would have to scroll over to see more than the 24 that are displayed here. And then if you keep scrolling down, you'll notice newspapers, which you might think is kind of strange because Game and Fish doesn't create newspapers. And if you look even closer, you might think, well, that's the Coconino Sun. What does that have to do with the Game and Fish Department? So I'm going to open the Coconino Sun just to show you, for an example, what we're talking about here. So if you look over here to the left, you'll see it says Arizona Game and Fish under document tags. If you click on the show tags and then click on Arizona Game and Fish, you'll see it took us to the second page, and it actually is pointing to something in this article about Game and Fish. And I'm going to actually not show the tag because it's kind of covering it up a little bit. And it's actually talking about the new game law from the recent legislature for the protection of game and fish. So this particular article is actually about a new game and fish law that the legislature in 1905 created. So again, if you're doing research on the Game and Fish Department, this might be of interest to you. From 1905, some work that the Game and Fish Department, put in getting some of the game laws changed. So I just wanted to point that out. Sometimes when we're working in these newspapers and we catch something like that, we'll quickly tag it and make sure that it gets tagged to that agency so that somebody else coming behind us will be able to find that a lot more quickly. So all of these newspapers then that we see here have Game and Fish tagged to them somewhere in their pages. And then you'll see here that we have a bunch of sub-collections. And this is another area that is continuously being improved upon and updated. And it started first with our newsletters and periodicals. And if you are a genealogist, I would suggest paying close attention to the newsletters from all of our agencies, because these are treasure troves of genealogic material. Often. I don't know that Game and Fish in particular is, but we'll talk about the Highway Department here at the end with an example. For example, Wildlife Views, Heritage Highlights, these were or are newsletters that were published by the Game and Fish Department. And just to keep all of the newsletters together in one place, we created a sub-collection so that all of the issues are together. So that's why you might come across some sub-collections underneath some of these agency pages. And once we got all of the newsletters collected that way, we realized that there were some other things like annual reports that should also be collected that way, because there's so many of them. So here are all of the annual reports from the Game and Fish Department, and you can see they started in 1954 and they're still continuing today. So we have what is that, 70 years worth of Game and Fish annual reports. So if we just left them up here in this documents section, this document section would just go on and on and on and on, and it would be very hard for you guys to find anything in these documents if we didn't kind of lump them all together. So you might look down here in the sub collection if you're looking for something like annual reports to be kind of kept all together. The other thing that we've started collecting together in these sub collections are attorney general opinions that are related to an agency. So that's what this sub collection is here. And then again, if there's agencies related to this agency, like we talked about before, those will be down here. And then periodicals, very similar to the newspapers. If we caught an article in another periodical about the Game and Fish Department, then we would have tagged it. These work a little differently than newspapers. You do actually have to search, but if you type Game and Fish, you'll see the highlighting right here. So this whole article is about Game and Fish. You can see there are 7 matches. So you can click the down arrow and find all of those Game and Fish. So we caught that this article mentioned Game and Fish, so we tagged it to the Game and Fish Department. So that's how those agency pages kind of work together. All right, so I have one example for all the genealogists that are in here. Let me close some of these pages really quick. I just wanted to point out a couple other one other newsletter that the genealogy community might be interested in. This is the Department of Corrections agency page. We have several newsletters from the Department of Corrections, starting with Fort Grant Bugle, but LaRocca is what started it. The LaRocca was published from 1973, I think off the top of my head, through the 1990s. It's a beautiful literary journal that actually won quite a few awards in the 90s. And it lists, well, it doesn't list, but you can find names of some of the inmates that, you know, wrote either articles or poetry or things like that for the journal. And then it went on to become a couple different, or actually before it was LaRocca, it was a couple different names, like What's Happening in the Yard was the precursor to LaRocca. So if you have somebody in your family that might have been at the state prison in Florence that maybe did some writing, then LaRocca might be a great place to take a look at. And then I'll show you really quick if LaRocca is something that you want to revisit and you want to save it. If you click on this star button and you add it to your collection, you'll get this little pop-up here. Click on My Collection over here on the left, and there it is in your bookmarks. So you have it there to return to. Okay, real quick, because we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to show you an example of how I used a government document to verify a piece of genealogy. And this isn't anybody in my family, but I just wanted to point this out. So I had found this newspaper from the Tohono O'odham Nation back in 1957. And this article caught my attention at the bottom, where it talked about Leonard Dolores, who was killed in an automobile accident on August 3rd, 1957. And I knew that the highway department had a newsletter that was unfortunately named On the Slab. It's a very unfortunate name, and the successor to that newsletter was even worse, and it was called Arizona Safety Statistics, which is, yeah, it's even worse. So don't kill the messenger on that one. But On the Slab provided some excellent source material for accidents that occurred on the roadways around Arizona from 1952. I think the safety statistics went all the way into the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. And at some point they started taking the names off, but in the 50s, they included the names. So again, we knew Leonard Dolores died in an automobile accident near Gila Bend on August 3rd. So I looked at the 1957 August issue of On the Slab, and number 3, August 3rd. Right here is Leonard Dolores. He was from Sells, which we know is on the Tohono O'odham Nation, and he died in an accident 10 miles west of Gila Bend. So we can see, you know, it's verified here in this government document that was published by the Highway Department. For genealogists, this is great information because we always like to have that second piece of information to verify the first piece that we found. So that leaves us 3 minutes. If anybody has any questions about our government documents, I know that was a lot. I hope you guys are finding these little sessions that we have useful. Ryan, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to open the Q&A and see what's in the chat. Let's see. It looks like Ryan, you answered the question about the ETA on the custom search box, so thank you. Yeah, Denis, I hope I'm saying your name right. That was quick. I mean, I could talk for like 6 hours about our government documents, but we don't want to bore everybody. So, so thank you. And we hope that you guys come back for our other sessions because we have lots to talk about and share about all the things that we have on AMP for sure. Excellent. Well, thank you guys. If you do think of any questions after today's session, please let us know. You will probably, I think we're going to drop a link for a super small survey in the chat. So please I think it takes like 60 seconds to fill it out. We'd love to hear what else you would want to learn about. If you think of anything else question-wise, or just want to give some feedback, again, that contact us button in the upper right is a great way to reach out to us. So thank you. We'll see you next time.